but we distilled the process that we use inside of our agency, which is create a turnkey content strategy. That means define your point of view on how your brand fits into the marketplace in a way that's unforgettable and is going to turn heads and cut through the noise, regardless of what the algorithm is doing. And then define 3 content pillars that are sort of, your messaging playbooks, and making sure that one is aligned to audience growth, brand awareness, right? Demand generation, making sure that one is aligned to selling through your product, your service, your offer, and one is aligned to nurturing a healthy community.
This podcast is brought to you by Bambassadors.com, the go-to platform for e-commerce brands to create video reviews that boost social proof and sales on TikTok and beyond. Get your first video review created and posted by a genuine creator, completely free, no strings attached, and no credit card required at Bambassadors.com.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Bin.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Good. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing great. We had already a few minutes of conversation and you brought amazing energies and positive vibes. So I thank you for this and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Same to you.
Awesome. Thank you. So before we get started and we dive deep into a personal brand and what your agency does, can you share a bit about your story? Because you shared a few interesting facts before we started recording and I'm curious and I'm sure that the audience would love to hear the story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm an American, but I'm sitting in France right now, the south of France, where I've been for 6 weeks. And this is probably the closest I've ever come to living my work dream. And it was a really long, hard road to get here. I was telling you that I own a social media marketing agency. We have kind of 2 business units now. One that is agency, all done for you work. We do turnkey content strategies for purpose-driven brands. And then when the pandemic hit, we also broke off another business unit because our agency was in a lot of trouble and we were trying to save our jobs. And so now we have also an educational business unit where we teach people how to do small brands, how to do what we do inside of our agency. Before that, I started my career at a global snowboarding company called
Nice.
Burton Snowboards, 8 years there. And that's where I kind of made my way into marketing after a few different kind of jobs, and then left there just to get more experience at what I thought was going to be a really cool opportunity, a cool natural skincare brand, but the environment was just so toxic, and ultimately started my business because I just wanted more out of work life. Like my point of view is that we spend so much of our lives working, and I wanted to create sort of a different sort of work-life balance where both were really fulfilling and integrated. So I feel like I finally got there after I was telling you I was super burnt out in 2021, but made some great leaps and bounds and changes since then. And I couldn't be more happy about where I'm sitting today.
Awesome. That's great. I'm happy for you. And I can see the excitement in your face. Just one thing that you said, and it kind of made me think, I just spoke about this with a friend of mine, the difference between balance, work-life balance, and work and life integration and harmony. Because a lot of people, when they say balance, they think about this should be 50%, this should be 50%, or this should be 25 multiplied by 4. But in my opinion, the insight that I realized a few years ago, that harmony doesn't mean necessarily that all parts are equal. So even if I train like 10% of the time, 10% is investing in exercising, but I still feel integrated. So that's cool. Can you share about what made you start the other unit?
Yeah, so we finally had, our growing an agency is really hard work. And we were, I'm sure any other agency owner that's listening to this can relate. I was sort of I felt like I hit rock bottom before COVID in terms of I was just so tired of just fighting so hard for every contract. We are definitely a premium agency. Our positioning is more premium when it comes to content and social media strategy. So that work of getting brands on board, we were working with bigger, global, really well-known brands. So that work of getting them on board was just so grueling. And the amount of hours, unbillable hours I would spend prior to ever getting the contract was just like so discouraging. And so we had a couple tough blows right before, and then the pandemic hit, and then 80% of our revenue at that point was threatened. We went from being totally fine to a week later, me thinking I was going to have to let everyone go. And based on our position, we didn't have we work with really fun, purpose-driven lifestyle brands, no brands that would be categorized in that like essential business unit that, when the pandemic hit and everyone was like, is it essential or not? We were not essential. And so, same time, like people were pausing us, people were canceling big contracts that we had almost gone through, sitting in a legal department, those got paused. So we just kind of had like one play to make. And I had been, over the last couple of years, years before that, I had been interested in sort of another revenue stream just to diversify for us, something to build more leverage into the business, something to kind of finance our lead generation. And so I had been like kind of, I hadn't wanted to distract my team members with it, but I'd like low key on the side during the weekend, starting to work on a sales page and that kind of stuff. So I was well positioned to move fast, and we pulled our first course, which is called Strong Brand Social Express, together in a 3-week period. Everything, the full course, the full funnel, everything. And I'll never forget, that day that we started the ads, and it was like, everything was working at once. And it wasn't like, I had been studying all of that stuff for a really long time. So I knew what it was going to take, but I'll never forget that. So and then since then, we just I didn't know what we were going to do with it at that point, but our students came in and like really enjoyed our point of view and kept asking us for more. And so we just saw a lot of opportunity there. We stayed really close with our customers, just kept delivering what they're asking for from us. And it's, 2 years later, and we're starting to now think a little bit more long-term and all of that. But that's how that all started. It was a wild ride.
Can you elaborate about what you guys are offering?
We have a really unique perspective on our market. I always joke that I'm 34, and I'm like the eldest generation of social media marketers, because when there's not many director level, VP level folks who actually ever managed a social media account, just because of the field is so new. 10, 12 years ago, brands were really getting on board. And so for me, the current state of the industry is really toxic. It's like just this idea that we're supposed to change our strategy every single time the algorithm updates shows me that like people are misusing the term strategy. And so we kind of distill, we have several different products, but we distill the process that we use inside of our agency, which is create a turnkey content strategy. That means define your point of view on how your brand fits into the marketplace in a way that's unforgettable and is going to turn heads and cut through the noise, regardless of what the algorithm is doing. And then define 3 content pillars that are sort of, your messaging playbooks, and making sure that one is aligned to audience growth, brand awareness, right? Demand generation, making sure that one is aligned to selling through your product, your service, your offer, and one is aligned to nurturing a healthy community. Those things, that's strategy, right? That's messaging strategy that no matter what the algorithm does and no matter what platform comes out next, it's coming from the point of view of what your audience cares about. And that stuff doesn't need to change all the time. And then we move into that tactical stuff, like, okay, how are we going to get the message in the right place at the right time for ultimate resource efficiency? Sometimes that means the latest and greatest, and sometimes it doesn't. And so we teach really kind of like step-by-step how to build these sort of systems and social media marketing machines within your brand. We are really passionate about helping brands create strategies that help them with succession planning. That's something that I see missing in our industry a lot. It's like you work with one social media manager and then they leave, and then you're left like you don't know what they were doing, and your brand voice completely changes and all of that. So we work with brands to really like overcome that stuff, reduce the overwhelm, reduce how much time you're spending, kind of shift from right now inside of the social media marketing industry. Everything is trending towards content creators. Everything is about making it easier for content creators to monetize, and no one, the small brand owners kind of like being left behind. And so we're really trying to show up for those folks.
This is very interesting. I love the idea of the pillars, and I would like you to, if possible, zoom in to the first step, which is about finding out the point of view that cuts through the noise. Let's start with how general or specific do you think it should be? Do you normally cast a wide net or try to fish with like a fishing hook or fishing rod?
It depends on how crowded your industry is. So if you're like in an emerging market, or you have a few players in your market, your point of view could be a little bit broader, could cast a wider net. The more competitive your industry is, you could take beauty as an example. Beauty industry, if any sort of e-com brand has a lot of competition, then you're going to want to get more and more and more specific. And we do that work by really honing in on a few things. We look at our target persona. This is where things can get really specific, right? Mm-hmm. And it's about moving from like their demographics to saying, no, especially with social media, like how are they using social media? What content are they consuming? Are they sharing content? Like, are they creating original content, or are they more like passive scrollers and sharing things? What other accounts are they looking at, right? And really digging in deep there to identify like your person. And that is an example of the more competitive your market is, the more specific that has to get. And then we'll look at, what we call the competitive white space, which is another kind of way to look at, what your target persona's line of sight is, and identifying, okay, what are people doing? What are other brands doing? Your competition, what are they doing well that is clearly resonating in that market? And then also what is not being done? What is white space we can attack? And a question we get frequently is like, what if I look at my competitive set and there's nothing really very inspiring happening? Then the next step would be about like kind of redefining competition to say, okay, how about indirect competitors, right? And industry leaders that maybe aren't your direct competitors, but are your kind of aspirational competitive set. So once we dig into that, then that's where we start like crafting the point of view at the intersection of those two things, and then your unique value proposition. And so I like to think about the way that I like to craft our point of view is to kind of have a statement that sort of sets the stage for what the status quo of your industry is, why it's not serving your person well, and how you do things differently. It should be short, it should be concise, it should really hit those 3 points. And it's like kind of the like spiciest version of your point of view. And that is going to drive, that is going to be something that you come back to again and again and again, that if somebody's following you for a month, whether they're following you on social, whether they're on your website, whether they're on your email list, like they over time are going to be able to say, okay, that's what that brand stands for, right? So that's how we like to think about that.
Awesome. Can you share like an example of a point of view or of a slogan or unique selling proposition that you came up with for a brand or for your specific?
Totally. I wish I had one in front of me because I'm going to do a terrible job right now. But I can talk about the elements of ours, for example. Cool. Is like we believe that the current status quo of the social media marketing industry is toxic, and it keeps brands in like a never-ending time-wasting hype cycle, right? And just like wasting a lot of time. And we believe that the best content strategies, are sustainable content strategies. And so we show up with proprietary like 3-step framework that will help you cut through the noise and systematically, gain traction, sell through, and build loyal communities, right? So you have those like three nice. Pieces. Yeah.
When you say toxic, can you explain exactly what you mean by toxic?
Yeah. I think we've seen over the last 2 years. So when I was coming up in social, there was no such thing as social media education. It just did not exist. And then since the pandemic, which, I don't mean to knock folks coming on and making like a name and a business for themselves. It's great. But like the influx, the sheer magnitude and volume of folks who are now teaching our field is like really overwhelming for the small brand owner. And not only that, what we're seeing is, with competition between Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and everyone trying to keep people on the platforms, with Zuckerberg dumping, what was it, like $1 billion into the content creator market through the end of this year, right? The majority of the social media marketing education that we are seeing is actually being funded by inter-platform competition. So these platforms are paying content creators to create content on their platforms, which is like resulting in a bunch of content that's like super specific about stuff that really doesn't matter for the small brand owner. Like 5 Instagram hacks you didn't know about. It's like, I didn't know about it because I don't need to know. And so if we as small brand owners who actually have a completely different business model than a content creator whose business model is to create content all day, every day. So they have time for those really like specific tactics, and they have time to like consume every single update. If we as small brand owners are following that as the guide, like as the North Star, we are never going to get anywhere because we only have a few hours a month to do this work. And so it keeps, like, what I see small brands like legitimately distressed that they feel like they're never going to be able to do what is demanded of them. When in reality, we don't do barely any of it and we're growing. I mean, we have generated 14,000 customers in 2 years. So it's like, it's a total myth. But it's a result of inter-platform competition, like huge social media conglomerates, and then that trickling down into a bunch of education that's kind of misplaced and misguided that works for the content creator, but not. And really what small brand owners need to know is like how to work with content creators, not how to do all that stuff themselves. So that's what I mean by toxic. It's just like, there is a lot of stress and the industry itself thrives on, it's like the media. I mean, it's the media. It's thriving on impressions. This is you got to do this. You got to do right. And it's like, it's just absolutely stressing out the different brands, like whether it's B2B companies that aren't content creators, whether it's e-commerce brands, up and coming, like brick and mortars that also have an online piece. Like they have so much to do. They can't keep up with all that.
This is very interesting. A very interesting point of view. I do reckon that there are a lot of charlatans and a lot of misinformation, but I never thought about the fact that directly or indirectly, the platforms are paying the content creators to just keep on uploading shit.
They are. I mean, I get prompted and I should be, it's not necessarily the best business decision for me. It's more of an ethical one. I get prompted every single time I log on to Instagram. It's like, you could have made this many $1,000s last week if you just like monetized your account. And I'm very sure that if I did that, my reels, for example, would like spike in views because then I'm working for Instagram, so it's just it's quite something.
Interesting. So what do you believe are the key factors for a brand to grow? Having said that, so let's tell them the truth. So what are the key factors in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, so number one for sure is a strong point of view, understanding what matters to your customer and like what they're waiting for, what they're waiting to hear. What would feel if they heard it like really refreshing and reassuring. That's number one. And then having that sort of communication system that can just simplify like the way that you go to market. Those are really important pieces. Tactically, it's then going to depend on, right, it depends on where you're at, right? There's different stages of growth. And then it also depends on what your resources are and what your goals are. So for example, if we took a brand that was like in the very beginning stages, we need a minimum viable sales funnel, right? We don't need to be on 5 social media platforms. One of the things that I say over and over and over again is like, if you're under 2 million in revenue and the list of things that you feel like you should be doing is not longer than the list of things you're doing, you're probably stalling out your growth. Because we have all of these people say, oh no, YouTube's the best, TikTok's the best, this, and people are chasing their tails. So we need 2 different examples of a minimum viable sales funnel would be, okay, I want to move fast. Like I want to be aggressive. I'll take a little bit more risk and I have more money than I have time. Then you're going to want to put together a minimum viable paid digital marketing sales funnel, right? Or you're using budget. If you have more time than money, or you have a strong content creation skill set, then you're going to move towards a organic growth to sales funnel plan, right? So, and you really just need one. And then once one is working, the next step is to optimize that thing that's working, lower your cost for acquisition on customers. And then once those things are in place, you're going to start to diversify, add more channels. But it's like, if you are going the paid sales funnel route, you really only need to post like a couple organic posts a week. You don't need to post every single day, right? If you're going the organic route, you need to be posting every single day. So does that answer your question? It's just two.
Yeah, for sure. But can you elaborate about the organic? I mean, I never saw any traction with organic social media, and I'm not sure if it's just something that people are saying, like you said, because because for me, what is working, just paid ads, Totally. And I do believe in SEO, but organic social media, I'm not sure about it. So what is your impression?
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app. And we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
I mean, that's where it is hard. If you're going that organic route, you are going to be behaving more like a content creator. So you are going to need to be doing things like the way that Instagram tells you to do them. You're going to be needing to keeping up with all the new like features and best practices. You can't win on organic by ignoring those. I still, like you, I mean, I've watched thousands of brands over the last few years, and I mean, it's really hit or miss. And also, everything that's set up on the back end of, these platforms now is all catering to the actual content creator account. So I actually think that there's no proof, but I think like that the algorithm is favoring, you have account types, you have like business versus content creator. I think content creators are being emphasized. So it's hard. All I would say is I'm like you. What I see that works best is paid, a mix of like a sort of sweet spot between the two. We talk about like, we think about a strategy called like hyper organic, where we'll actually take the organic content that we're creating, because we take a lot of time to create it and it's really, really good. We'll put like just $20 behind a post to the right audience. So it's not like a super souped up, like paid funnel. But because we divide, or because we align our content pillars to specific business goals, that means it's easy to target. So for example, that pillar one that's meant to gain attention, we'll put $20, get that in front of people that look like our customers. And then we'll take $10 behind a pillar two, get it behind our warm audiences, that kind of thing. So I know I'm with you. The moral of the story is the best way to win if you're doing an organic strategy. It's like I said, it's going to take a lot of time. Like you can't win with an organic strategy unless you are willing to commit the time. If you don't have the time, you got to fork up the money.
Exactly. And I also have this fear that once I go the paid route, whenever you try to go back to organic, the platform won't prioritize you. So this is, it's not proved, but this is a fear that I have in the back of my mind. Once you start paying them, so they want the money.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've seen instances where I think that, and then other times I'm like, no, we didn't pay for that, and that went really well. There's just so much more content than there used to be. I think it's really a lot easier now than it ever has been to just be drowned out in it all,
So can you share an example? Do you have like a case study in mind of a brand that came to you in a specific stage, and then what exactly did you do and what growth did you see?
Yeah, so I will be speaking a little bit, these numbers will be a little bit from memory, but it's hard to choose just one. I mean, I'll give you two short. The first one will be short, and then I'll give you two examples that are really different. So one is, we really just, the process of what we did. So I have one student who's a family-owned jewelry brand. She makes jewelry out of her house. She supports her whole family with it. She was already supporting her whole family with it in 2020. She implemented the materials inside of Strong Brand Social Express. And then one of our other courses hit me up at the end of 2020 and was like, or maybe early 2021. And she said, I was just doing my numbers and we grew by 200%.
Nice.
So, yes, her Instagram, we focus not on like Instagram followers and engagement as much. Those things go up when your content improves, but we're really looking for revenue growth. Another example is in the US, this brand is pretty big. It's a brand called Well People, and they were one of the very first green cosmetic brands. And they came to us. They were one of our bigger partners. They came to us with like 90,000 Instagram followers, a $10 million business. And we did the same thing. But they were in the beauty market. They were seeing all of these more like newer natural players like just blow past them in terms of like total audience growth. And they sell at wholesale. So they were in Target, Ulta, and ultimately to kind of like get in more doors when you have a wholesale side of your business and e-com, those retailers want to see audience. And so we did the exact same thing. We implemented a strong point of view. We really went deep looking at like who their target persona could be that was different and we could carve out our own space within the beauty industry, which is really hard to do. Created 3 content pillars, created a roadmap of like what that content was going to look like, started deploying it. Our growth rate jumped like, I think 3 times what it had been in terms of like Instagram audience growth, for example. We saw 127, I want to say, % increase in Instagram engagement. We saw a 30% increase in average order value, a 1,300% increase, I remember that number, in incoming DMs. And then the most important one was that, and I didn't know at the time that they were trying to do this, but a totally accelerated commercial sale. So they ended up selling to e.l.f. Cosmetics, which is like one of the world's largest cosmetic brands. And when I was speaking with the founder, he was like, it's the work you did that accelerated. We weren't expecting this to happen for another 3 years, but it just happened in the first year of us working with you. So like, yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to deny the like power and impact that social media can have. I'm of the mindset of like, of course, wanting to lower the pressure, but at the same time, there can be some like serious dividends when you go about it the right way.
This result sounds amazing. Can you share maybe if you distill the tips or advice that you have to small business owners or small store owners that are listening to our conversation? What are like your most important advice?
Yeah, I think a couple things. So what we've been talking about today, where you're really like, if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, oh, I don't have a strong point of view and I don't have 3 pillars that are aligned to specific business goals. Because that's one thing I will say is our industry, you could Google content pillars and scroll for pages and pages and pages and pages and pages. And all you see are definitions about like themes and topics and subjects your brands can talk about. And no one talks about the importance of actually aligning them to your business goals, right? And we need them to be aligned to our business goals because we need efficiency. We don't have endless resources. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, I don't have this stuff, then this is your sign. Come hang out with us at Strong Brand Social. We'll help you out. But it's your sign to address that, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling like you've been trying all of these things and you're feeling like you're being left behind. We talk a lot about like digital marketing isn't going anywhere. Yes, we hear a lot of advice about like, outsource things that aren't your strengths, outsource. And that's good advice, but only at a certain point in your business journey. And it's my opinion that brands that are coming up need to look digital marketing in the eye, and they need to be able to think for themselves. Like they need to be able to understand the environment well enough to say like, no, I'm going to ignore that advice. And I'm going to go this way because I am able to evaluate like the cost benefit analysis of one strategy over another in relation to the resources that I currently have and my goals, right? We don't have to know how to run Facebook ads and optimize all of our SEO blog posts. And like, we don't have to know how to do every single thing ourselves step by step. We do need to have like equip ourselves to be the digital leaders that our brands need. We need to be able to make independent decisions via critical thinking with our resources. And so I would just encourage folks to like look that in the eye and look for opportunities and environments to invest in your growth. Like we were talking about before the show, where, you know, folks underestimate how much personal growth and mindset work is actually involved in business growth. And it's so much, like it's everything. And so I think really being willing to spend a little time and invest in environments that are going to help you both with like the digital marketing side of things, understanding the environment and the ecosystem that the business is operating within right now and where it's going. And also, you know, equipping yourself as a leader to be able to think independently for yourself and prepare for growth that's coming, right? Because as your brand grows, the problems change. And if we're not investing in our personal development and leadership and ability to make independent decisions, while there's a bunch of noise being thrown at us, you know, we're not going to be able to not only grow as fast as we want, but enjoy it. Like there's a big difference between growing your brand and growing a brand and enjoying it. And so maybe that wasn't a small tip.
No, but it's great. So many life lessons, it's very important. And I totally agree. I mean, critical thinking is so important. I mean, I think it's, as you said, I'm not a big fan of agencies, I must admit. When I invert the problem, I think it's the problem that the business owner or don't have ability to assess the agencies, and then the agencies just do whatever they want, which is trying to get as much as money as possible from the business owner without providing as little as possible value. So you have to have, whatever you do as an entrepreneur, in my opinion, you have to at least have ability to assess the work. Agree. So if you need, take a course about coding, take a course about Facebook ads, just some watch tutorials, some stuff just so you know the jargon and at least have like 30% knowledge of the field. This is my personal point of view.
You have to build your bullshit detector is really what you need to have.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And these days the bullshit detector is overworking.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I have, my first business was an agency, but when I first started, like the first few months, I really wanted to just create content strategies that then brands could follow, because I truly believe that like there are some serious benefits to holding your social media marketing as one example in-house, because it's just so much better. You're closer to the brands. That didn't work out because people were like, no, I need help with this. But, you know, that's what we do now is we help folks. When we think about the way we do content strategies, we're really, yes, we come from a social media background. So we come at things through like a very social first lens. But we help brands create content strategies that then we're always like, do not hire those agencies until you have this. Like, you know what I mean? Because the strategy work is the work that on the agency side, I'm getting paid between $10,000 and $25,000 to do. I can teach you to do it for a fraction of that using my process. You're the best suited to do it because nobody knows your customer, your brand, your product, your market as well as you do. And when folks are like, when brands are paying our agency, most of the money they need to pay us is to get on board, is for all of that research, for the stuff that they already know. And so then once you have a really strong point of view, a really good communication strategy, then you hand that to your ads agency, to your SEO people, you know, to your organic social media marketers. So everybody's moving in the same direction. Your dollars are just going to be much more efficient and effective. So I'm with you.
Cool. Yep. It reminds me of one of the workshops of Dan Kennedy speaks about the fact that most of the people that just want to shift the responsibility, the burden of responsibility to someone else. So they're willing to pay a high price tag just in order to outsource the responsibility, which is a very interesting perspective. I tend to agree. We all try to outsource some of the responsibility you have to someone, consultants, maybe financial consultant or agency owner or whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that the hard truth about it depends, right? If you're starting up and you have a bunch of capital, okay, you can do that from the beginning. If you're starting up and you don't, if you are self-financing your growth, the hard truth is that like, if you try to outsource too early, you're going to waste all of your resources and you're going to be totally screwed. So, I don't think that the work ever stops, but for me and my experience, we've gone from zero to, we're 5 years in, our business has gone from $0, we're self-financed to, we're not at, I think we were at like 1.3 last year in 2021. We're at really close to a $2 million run rate now, 5 years in. And the work isn't stopped. Like it's not going anywhere. And it's getting more complicated, but my work is certainly looking different. It's certainly more enjoyable. And so what I remember always being told, the first 5 years. And it is really easy to like just dig in, just dig in and do it, because if you do that, those benefits, not only like financially, but in terms of like what we were talking about before of enjoying your work, being able to integrate your work in your life in a way that is like meaningful, those things will come. And then you also will have already done all of that work to have context, to be able to talk to specialists, to be able to feel confident in the decisions that you're making with the resources and how you're allocating them. Like all of that will come together. But yeah, it is like, if you try to do that too early, you're going to regret it.
Yeah, it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. It was very interesting. I liked where the conversation has shifted to, even though I also enjoyed the first part, obviously. Where can people find more about you guys?
Okay, so we have our agency website is kwcontent.com. We are working, if you go to strongbrandsocial.com, we should have a fresh Shopify site up by August. We'll have free resources there, blogs. We'll have links to our free community where we put on like a lot of free trainings, and we will also have clear outline of courses. We'll help you find the right curriculum for you. So strongbrandsocial.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, thank you for having me. This is super fun.
Awesome. Enjoy France and keep in touch.
Awesome. See you soon.
Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number one, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number two, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.